everybody. I'm not sure how much time I'll have left, but I'm out here by myself waiting, and I wanted to take a minute to talk about banishing and hexing and binding. So, let's start with binding. I see a lot of people who are like, I have a problem with this person and they're doing bad things, so I want to bind them, or this person hurt me and I'm going to bind them, or whatever their reasoning may be. So, when you bind someone, you are literally taking your energy and you are wrapping it around that person and you are binding to them. So you are affixing your energy to that person together. Think of it like glue. It's not... The example that I always think of is in the Craft movie, and I think that that's what most people think of when they think of binding, like I bind you from harming yourself and harming other people. But what she was doing is that her energy was that ribbon, and she herself was the one doing that. And so you're connecting your energy with the energy of the person that you're binding, and I don't think that that's what most people are looking for when they are looking to do a binding spell. Binding spells are more appropriate when, let's say you have a child or a niece or a person that you know who is super depressed, who needs a lot of love, who needs to feel the embrace of love all the time. So they need your loving energy to bind to them so that they can do better. And that's a good place for a binding spell. Now, if you feel that you really need to protect people from someone, and that the only way to stop them is to use your energy to bind to them, to control that, then so be it. But you also have to realize that when you do that, one, you are attaching your energy. Two, your energy is going to be continuously flowing to this spell. It's not like you do it and, okay, I bind you, and they're bound, and then that goes away and it goes over there. You got to think of it like a tether. And as long as you are bound together, so is your two energy, and your energy is what's binding them. So, binding spells are not good for getting rid of people or dealing with people you don't like, or removing a person's energy, or like, you got to think of it like putting that energy into a bottle and being like, okay, this explosive energy that's causing all this negativity, I'm going to bottle it up, I'm going to put it over here, and I'm going to use my energy as a bottle, and I'm going to hold it like this. And forevermore, you're holding it like this until you release that spell. And so it's always like you're plugged in and there's this small drain on you. And especially when you're doing it to like stop someone from hurting your space or whatever it may be, you are, one, attracting them to you, and two, you are like plugged into that negative energy and it's sucking up your energy. So that's why binding spells are not recommended. It's not because they're negative or like they're going to do harm. They are possibly going to harm you because, like I said, you are plugging yourself, like you are the extension cord wrapping around this person, and you are binding your energy to them to stop them from doing whatever it is that you don't want them to be doing. So again, they work better if you're, say, like I said, you know somebody who's suicidal, you know somebody who needs a lot of love, you know somebody who's young and doesn't understand, and they just need a moment to learn. And again, remember, whenever you bind somebody, you are putting that energy into their vessel, and your energy is holding it there. So that's what binding is. Okay, now so banishing is removing an energy. And there are two different ways to banish. So you can banish an energy into something. This sounds super mundane and almost kind of silly, but when I clean my house, I banish the negative energy into my vacuum. And then when I dump my vacuum, I say a little prayer about releasing that energy. I try to do it outside and release that energy away. But I'm banishing the negativity into the vacuum so that it sucks it all up and I can move it somewhere else. You can do this with crystals. So when you banish an energy into a crystal, or when you banish an energy into something, or you banish an energy away from you. And those are all places that you can do that. Like banishing an energy, or removing it. And then hexing. I feel like I didn't talk about banishing very long, but that's really all there is to it. That's what you're doing. You are removing a specific energy with your intent and being specific, and then moving that energy somewhere else, typically out and away from you, or into something so that you can then move it out and away from you. So that's what banishing is. The third, okay, so hexing is like wishing bad luck upon a person. A real simple form of hexing is the simple saying, karma is a bitch, or what goes around comes around. And when you say that to someone, you are telling them, like, that bad energy you're sending out, it's going to come back to you. And that's simple, concise hex right there. Bam. Those simple words. And then you can get really, it can become a grand concept and become ritualistic, and then you are hexing them with greater bad luck, but greater negative juju, greater, whatever. And, there are a lot of people out there who are like, you can never do a hex. And honestly, I think one of the good hexes that you can do is that what goes around comes around. When you tell somebody you're going to get what's coming to you because you made that bed and you're going to have to lie in it. Or I was watching a documentary on child abuse, and I watched a judge actually hex the people that he was sentencing, because he was like, I hope that every day you wake up and you see this child's face and you think about this child, and that his pain haunts you forever. And that was a good hex. Those people really deserved that. They were horrible people. And in his words, that's what he was doing. And he didn't, he doesn't even realize that that's what he's doing. So when you say things like that, that's like a most simple kind of hex. And then, like I said, you can get even more into it, and you can make those words into a spell or a ritual or so much more, and you can put that energy out there. Now, I'm not one that believes in the Wiccan creed or the rules of Wiccan and stuff like that, and so I'm not all into the all light and no whatever. Nature is as nature is, and there's no one side without the other. So there are times when it is appropriate. Some people do deserve to be punished. However, just as you say the words to someone else that karma is and that's going to come back to you, because that is karma. And you don't need someone to say that to you. It might take longer, or it might take a lifetime or 2 lifetimes or whatever it may be, but eventually that energy will come back to you. You do get back what you put in, just like with anything. And this isn't, I've had people say, oh, well, that's a Bible quote. No, this is just a quote of life. When you plant seeds, if you don't ever come back to water them and you never come back to do anything to them, they just die and wither up, and therefore that energy is gone. So if you plant the seed and water the seed and love the seed and nurture the seed, and that energy goes out, that energy also then comes back in. It either comes back in through compost through your garden as the leaves die and it goes through its cycle. It comes back through like you're eating something. The energy itself comes back through when you use the herbs for something, or even just the beauty and the energy that it brings into this world as it is just being there. But this is a constant cycle, a constant flow, a constant everything. And everything is connected through a grand spider web. So as you start sending out this hexing energy, really think about why you're hexing somebody. If you're hexing somebody because they took your parking spot, that's pretty petty. And I imagine that one of the gods or the energies or the whatever that may be are going to come back around and be like, well, now you're never getting another parking spot again. I one time made a comment about, oh, you don't know how to open a garlic, to a good friend of mine, and now forevermore I have trouble opening garlic. And it was just a lesson. It was a lesson that I had to learn about my own pride and being boastful, and that I'm constantly reminded of, because that's what the gods see fit, I guess. I don't know. So that's just it. So when you start hexing people, you're sending that energy back out to them, and a lot of times it is just casual. I hope that you remember this. I hope that this comes back to you. You make the bed. Now you have to lie in it. Like, the list goes on and on and on, because this is a theme in our reality. And then you can make that even grander. And just keep in mind that all energy is connected and there is no vacuum. You are not doing this in a vacuum. So you always have to keep in mind that even if you're only focused on this one thing. So here's an example. There's this guy, he's at work, he's harassing you, he's not a good person. And then you put a hex on him, you say, I don't want him to have this job anymore. Well, he's got a family and children that he has to take care of, and he's an asshole because his wife left him with the kids and has disappeared, and now he's stuck dealing with the children and life and stress and more stress and more stress and more stress, and he just can't handle himself, and his one outlet is being an asshole at work. But because you were offended by some asshole thing that he said, now it's turned into this, and then he loses his job, and then his kids don't have anywhere to live because he doesn't have a job anymore. So there is no vacuum. You can't say, I want this bad thing to happen to you and to not affect anything else. And that's why hexing can cause so many issues, and why it's not recommended for the faint of heart, because you do have to think about how that spider web goes out. And when you start hexing people and you start sending that energy out and it starts coming full circle, maybe that kid is friends with one of your kids at school, or however that may be. So just start to think about that as you start making these spells up. So if you have any questions about banishing or hexing or binding, please let me know. Please subscribe and like, and I hope you all have a great night. Blessed be.